Welcome to the cell film assignment. Today we will be discussing the acid-based approach within the context of the bioecological approach. It is important to note that the two approaches are interlinked with one another and forms part of Bronfenbrenner's PPCT model. Your acid-based approach is referred to as the whole full glass approach because it focuses on your acids, capacities, etc. that are available but have not necessarily been discovered yet. The reason teachers use it in a classroom is to emphasize a holistically guided approach, meaning they focus on the children's resources instead of their lacking abilities. Your bioecological approach shows us how people and groups at different levels of society are linked in dynamic, interacting relationships.
Our understanding of the approach. The main aim is to emphasize the assets, capabilities, strengths, and resources that the individual has access to. These assets have not yet been used by them to solve the issue at hand, therefore one has to identify these assets that they possess in order to put them to use. The assets mentioned must already be pre-existing in the person's life and they are mostly intrinsic in nature. The person is viewed as an active change agent. The focus here is finding enablement in the person's self-determination. In the asset-based approach, one will create networks and continue building on relationships. Participation is a key factor in order to make this approach a success. The asset-based approach allows a balance of both assets and needs in a bioecological manner. And finally, the asset-based approach allows educators to help their learners holistically so that they can support their learning experience. Teachers and learners are valued for what they can do rather than what they lack.
We will be looking at a detailed example of how to implement the approach in your classroom. A struggling student finds himself in an unfamiliar environment. Thus, we will look at the context of the PPCT model. He spends most of his time in the classroom around peers and a teacher whom he might not feel comfortable with. So the problem lies in his microsystem. Make him feel a bit more comfortable by, firstly, familiarizing yourself with all the students and then asking them to get to know each other by name. You should also be a prime example of reinforcing respect and kindness by showing respect towards your students, implementing moral rules, and also answering questions diligently and not discriminating against any student.
Examples and explanations of how we would implement this in a classroom. Through social media and technology, one can relate real-world experiences to tasks in the classroom. This will only work if the school and/or learner have access to the devices that host these programs. Begin each new lesson with an activity that provides the learners with information about the lesson that is to follow. Provide different ways to learn the material. Always give feedback to learners by identifying what they can do well and help them find strategies to improve the work that they cannot do well by using their strengths.